Thank you, mate. He's always lost for words when you put a microphone in his hand. Thank you very much, mate. Well done, well done. And I'd like to invite up next the patron of this organisation, Murray Stafford. Murray, could you please come up here, please, mate? And round of applause for Murray, the patron. Okay, so then could we please ask Colin and Kevin Bell up here as well?
Colin, a bit of that footwork.
I'll keep that applause going, give him a cheer.
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce Colin Bell and to induct him. Colin was born in Brisbane in 1935 into a boxing family. Colin's dad, Bob, fought as a professional, while Colin's son and grandson both fought as amateurs. His dad, Bobby Bell, was the Queensland light flyweight champion in 1929. Fighting in the Southpaw stance, Colin began his career at Brisbane Stadium and quickly made his way up the pro ranks in impressive fashion, losing only once in his first 16 bouts. Colin progressed from 4 rounders to 6 to 8 through to fighting 12-round main events at Brisbane Stadium and Festival Hall, Sydney Stadium and Melbourne Festival Hall. He headlined the bill at these stadiums in his last 10 appearances. It's a pretty fantastic record. He defeated some of the top fighters in the featherweight and lightweight division, including Queensland Hall of Fame famer Dick White inside 4 rounds at Sydney Stadium. He fought many overseas fighters who were champions in their own country. These included Altidoro Polidori from Greece, who he defeated by TKO in 7 rounds, Antoine Martin from France, who he lost to initially on points, then beat on points in a return bout, Louis Magnifico from Italy, who he defeated by TKO in 5 rounds. Colin finished his professional boxing career with a total of 30 fights, 20 wins, 4 draws and 6 losses. Colin still wanted to be involved in the sport he loved and enjoyed. Several successful years as a boxing trainer in Brisbane, where he had 2 boxing gyms in the 60s and 70s. He taught many young boys how to box and had many amateur fighters of all ages, many of whom went on to win state titles. He also trained a group of professional fighters who regularly fought on TV ringside, as well as in the main clubs around Sydney. He has always firmly believed the respect and discipline needed to be a successful boxer stay with you all of your life. He's a very popular and regular attendee at all Boxing Supporter Association functions, along with his son Kevin. So Kevin, if you want to join us now, I'm going to just run through a few questions for Colin. Colin, you were born in 1935 into a boxing family. Yeah, for those who can't work it out, Colin turned 88 a month ago. Yeah, he is the oldest inductee into the Queensland Hall of Fame. So that's a terrific record. boxing career?
Well, as you know, my dad was into boxing. He had 2 gyms in Brisbane. He started at the Holy Trinity Church Hall, and then he went on to the Valley Police Boys Club. So I used to go along, I never fought, but I used to go along and see them skipping and sparring. And I thought, oh, this is not a bad idea, this boxing. So I fronted up. I used to advertise in the Courier Mail. Used to advertise in the Courier Mail of a Thursday morning. If anyone wants any boxing, to turn up the stadium on the Friday. The fights in Brisbane used to be Friday, so they weighed in and Pat Hill was the referee and he matched them up in those days. That's how I started my boxing. He fought 2 3-minute rounds, and if you went all right, you upgraded into 4, 6 and so on.
Did you have an amateur career?
No, never had an amateur career. There was no money in it.
Was your father your early training?
Yeah. Another thing too, in those trial bouts, you were given 3 shillings, and you had to give your trainer back 75 cents. 7 and 6 for looking after you. They didn't make anything.
Who did you subsequently train with?
I trained with Neville Lynch in Sydney. He had a pretty big gym. He started off with Trevor King. Remember Trevor King? Yeah. He started with him, and he never had many professional fighters, but he had a lot of amateurs.
As a southpaw, I understand you were in demand for a lot of big name stars when they were preparing to fight a southpaw. Could you tell me some of those that you sparred with?
Well, I sparred with Bobby Singh. I think he fought Rubber City. I'm not too sure. Yeah, well, I sparred with him a lot for him against the southpaws. Yeah, Ellie Bennett. He used to be funny. Ellie Bennett was a great bloke to be with. But I used to go down the gym around about 5 o'clock to spar with him, and he never turned up. And his wife used to come into the gym and say, oh, my husband hasn't turned up, he's in the lockup. So he'd give him some money. He'd give him some money to bail him out, and then he'd come down about an hour later to spar with him. And then he wouldn't hardly hit you. But in the end of each round, he'd get you up against the ropes and go bang, right on your nose. He wouldn't train at all. I don't know how he got that, but he did.
At one stage, your pro career was interrupted by Australian Navy service. Were you still able to get fights?
Yeah, well, I joined the Navy when I was 18, and Dad was a bit upset because I just started to become good in boxing. I had a few fights while I was in the Navy. They used to have inter-service fights, Army, Navy and Air Force. I won a couple of them. And then I remember one time we were in Hong Kong, and there was 2 destroyers. I was on the Anzac and Brooke, and a couple of English ships, and then American aircraft carrier came in, had about 1,000 on it. So somehow or not, they decided to have a boxing contest between Australia, England and America at the Chinese Fleet Cup. They had a good gym and a boxing ring and everything like that. So I got matched up. I was a welterweight, then I got matched up by an American Negro, and we started off, and I couldn't hit him. He ducked and weaved and hit me with everything. And in the end, I got him, put my hands up like that. I tried to pull my hands out. So the referee, Chinese referee, warned him a couple of times. Next round, same thing, and he disqualified him for
The era in which you fought has been referred to as a golden era, particularly the featherweight and lightweight divisions at that time. You fought and beat many of them. Who do you consider was your hardest opponent?
American or Australia? America, Kevin Johnson, I don't know if you remember him, he came out here. Don Johnson came out here from the fighters out here from America, and I was matched up to fight him in Sydney, and I weighed in and I was about a bit over a pound in weight, and I think I had to be 9 stone. So I ran around the Rushcombe Play Oval, chewing gum and spitting out and going to the toilet, and I made the weight. And so I wasn't real strong and everything like that for him, but he knocked me out in 6 rounds with the top of the hooked out. Yeah.
Colin, you've been quoted as saying that boxing develops character and that the discipline and respect required to be a successful boxer, qualities that stay with you throughout life. Can you give me an example of this? Can you give me an example of this?
Well, I think nearly all boxers, when they finish their boxing, you never hear them in any fights or anything like that. You probably know that it's not going to do you any good unless you're getting paid to box.
Yeah, that's coming through loud and clear as you speak. Yes. Now, everyone here knows that all boxers like to hear the final bell, and today the final bell we will hear will be Colin's son Kevin Bell, who will ask to say a few words about his dad. Thank you, Kevin.
Only the good things.
Thank you, Murray. Hi everybody, I'm Kevin. As Murray's just said, I'm Dad's son. On behalf of all our family that's sitting down today, we've got Shirley down there, my mum, and Colin. They've been married 65 years this year, so I think
It's
to the patron, Murray Stafford, President Scott Tweedy, and to all the individual committee members of the wonderful tribute to Dad's involvement in the sport of boxing. All our family and friends are very grateful and honoured that he has received this very prestigious award. If I may, I would like to just tell you a couple of short, humorous stories that happened in boxing, as we all know. As Dad mentioned, he lost his last fight to the American Don Johnson at Sydney Stadium, but that was no disgrace, as his opponent went on to stop Jimmy Carruthers during Jimmy's comeback period, and Johnson also went the distance, eventually losing 2 close fights to 2 of Australia's greats in Lionel Rose and Johnny Famisham. So he was very well credentialed. Dad's professional career was interrupted, as we said before, momentarily when he served in the Australian Navy on the HMAS Anzac and Sydney. And while in port, the Navy guys would come into town, and if the shows were on, the Echo or the Sydney show in Easter time in Sydney, and they would go straight up to Jimmy Sharman Jr.'s tent, and on one occasion, Jimmy Sharman was up the top and beating the drum as they did back in the day. And he sort of yelled out and said, "Is anybody game enough to come up and fight the troop, the champ troop up the top here?" So Dad in his sailor's uniform put his hand up and he said, I'll have a go at him. And everyone cheered. And many of the ladies said, no, don't go in there, he's going to beat you up, he's a professional boxer. And he said, well, He said, if I can defend my country, I'm sure I can defend myself in the ring. So in he went. All the people paid their money. The tent was bursting at the seams to watch the young Navy guy take on the champion. Well, after 3 rounds of fighting, the referee raised his hand. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause when the referee raised the young sailor's arm in victory, making them happy, knowing that their money's worth seeing the underdog hero win against the seasoned pro. When Dad was training boxers in Sydney, he took a couple of fighters one night to the Wentworth RSL in Sydney. Fight one night, he had his dad, Bob Bell, in the corner with him. And as the fighter came back after the first round, Pops put his hand in the bucket with the biggest sponge I've ever seen. It's the size of a loaf of bread. And he put it in the water and he's gone like this to spray the fighter with water to cool him down. The sponge went straight out of his hand and knocked over his schooner on the table and people sitting in the playground. So that wasn't a very good start to the night. Now, the last story. Cole had a good fighter, Dad, Stephen Olds, who he taught to box, and he showed a bit of promise. He'd had 3 convincing pro fights. So his next fight, he was matched up at the Auburn RSL in a 6-round bout. His mother came to see him fight for the first time, and she was extremely nervous. She was shaking like a leaf. She came into the dressing room before the fight and she says, "Is he going to be all right?" And Dad said, "Well, he's trained hard, he's got good defence, he should be okay." So after 6 gruelling rounds, toe to toe, the other fella got the decision. So his mum came down after the fight into the dressing room and she nearly fainted when she saw her son there with a black eye and a cut under here and bloody nosed, and he was a bit worse for wear, but Dad said, "Well, you've got to be very proud of your son. He's put up a hell of a fight and he's fought a good boxer tonight." So his mum threw her arms around a young boy and said, "I'm so proud of you, my son, you've done so well." Well, she should have been proud of him because he did box that night against the fighter that went on to fight against Roberto Duran for the world title. It was none other than Hector Thompson that night. So, in conclusion, Dad has been a very special father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and a great man to all of our family. We love him very dearly, and we congratulate him on winning this fantastic award today. It's a great honour for not only himself and our family. And I'd like to thank again to all the committee members of the Boxing Supporters Association of Queensland for Dad's induction into the Queensland Boxing Hall of Fame.
I'll shout you next week.
Colin, it's an honour and a pleasure to induct you into the Queensland Boxing Hall of Fame. There's your
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Murray. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you. A round of applause for Murray also. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I love